Maybe. There we go. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, I accidentally I accidentally sent the stream to Twitch by accident, so that's my bad. I gotta go delete that Twitch stream. Sorry, work was being work, you know. You know how it is. So, anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and we're gonna dive into the final of the subclass reveal videos, which is going to be the Bard, which is pretty exciting. So let's go ahead and dive into that now. I have it stopped essentially, so that we can continue into it. Also, they did release an article on the Cleric. They still didn't release the article on the Monk, strangely enough. They released an article on the Cleric. We'll see if they release an article on the Bard. That way we can just look through some actual written out stuff at some point. Also, I will put on captions. I will put it at 1.25 times speed. I don't think anybody's going to be really upset with Bard. The only thing I can think of, depending on how they discuss it, you know what? I'll wait. We'll wait and see. All right. They released a Cleric video. They did not release or was it maybe did I say Monk? Maybe I meant Sorcerer. Did I mean Sorcerer? Because they did do Monk. Yes, I did. Sorry. I meant Sorcerer. They didn't release a Sorcerer article, but they did release a Cleric article. So, my bad. I misspoke. All right. So, yes, the Monk article was there. Yeah, that's my bad. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll just jump in, right? We'll get into see what they have to say about the Bard. Also, one of my preferred classes here. No word back from WotC yet on an updated PDF as well. So we're just going to have to go with what we've got here when I go to make my videos. Hopefully, I'll send another email today and see, but let's go ahead. Well, let's turn on the headphones first of all. And then we'll see what happens here. All right, let these headphones kick in.
You don't play favorites, but you do love bards. Big quality of life improvements for the bard, for those checking out the new Player's Handbook, right?
The new bard has sort of the best of the 2014 bard, as well as some of the best elements of the Unearthed Arcana bard. That includes a return of the bard's dedicated spell list. We had several versions that people saw in the Unearthed Arcana series where the bard didn't have a spell list of their own and instead was
Yeah, I'll just edit it in the like in the YouTube live. You can just go into the editor and just cut that. So we'll just have to do that after the fact.
Leaning into other classes' spell lists. Through that process, we re-embrace the bard having their own spell list, but as we'll discuss very shortly, bards, their magical secrets ability got enhanced in important ways. That bard spell list that has returned has been beefed up thanks to new spells in this book, as well as us even taking some spells that were already in the Player's Handbook and adding them to the bard's list. And
when we get to magical secrets, I will see what they say, but there may be some disappointment coming with that.
We've also given bards the flexibility that our other full spellcasters have gained with their cantrips, in that bards can now change one of their cantrips every time they level up. When it comes to their signature non-spellcasting ability, Bardic Inspiration, bards everywhere can rejoice that Bardic Inspiration now will last for up to an hour on the person that has.
This is a big update. Bardic Inspiration going from 10 minutes to an hour means it has a lot more out-of-combat utility, which is nice.
Rather than just 10 minutes. And that will make it far easier for people to have a chance to actually use their Bardic Inspiration. Because I know many people have had that experience where the Bard gives the Bardic Inspiration, they forget to use it, and oh my gosh, the 10 minutes have passed.
Yeah.
Now you have a full hour before you're almost there and the Bard player is reminding you. Remember, you have Bardic Inspiration.
Yeah.
We also have taken the Bard's expertise feature and made it so you get it sooner. You now get it at level 2. We have revised all of the subclasses and included an entirely brand new one, the College of Dance, but we'll get to subclasses in a minute. We've also made it, because we know how much bards love to use Bardic Inspiration, we've made it easier for you to get uses of Bardic Inspiration back in the Font of Inspiration feature by letting you simply burn spell slots to get it back. Because we've all...
This is a nice little quality of life thing, right? I mean, I feel like more often than not, your spell slots will ultimately be more powerful unless your subclass provides you with a very powerful option for your inspiration. But it kind of falls into a similar aspect as like sorcery points or wild shape, where you can kind of burn a slot to get that back.
Had that experience, whether we're playing bards or DMing for bards or our friends are playing bards, where sometimes the bard wants more uses of Bardic Inspiration more than they want to cast more of their spells. And so we, recognizing that phenomenon, whether it is by observing other people's games or just playing bards in our own, that's why we wanted to give bards the flexibility to essentially exchange one of their magical resources for one of their other magical resources. This is similar to what we did in the Druid, where there again is that ability to do some exchanging, really all about making it so that players have even greater control over what their characters do on adventures. Now, we also took a look at the Bard's counter charm ability, and we decided, let's actually make this useful.
Nice to hear them address the fact that counter charm is garbage in 2014.
And so the new counter charm ability is now a reaction that the bard can use when someone around them is charmed or frightened, gives them a new roll against that effect, and when they make that new saving throw, they have advantage on it. I think this is going to make counter charm see far more use than we've seen in the last 10 years. And it helps preserve a little detail that's been a part of the bard for decades, because bards having a counter charm ability has been a part of the class going back to the game's earliest days.
This is the only thing that is kind of like, I really love one of the things about the Tales of the Valiant Bard has the bardic performances have made a comeback in their version of the bard. So I really like that. This counter charm is like the closest thing I feel like to a true bardic performance, but the improvement here makes it much more viable.
Now, at level 10, bards still get magical secrets. And this is now the feature where bards get to dive into other classes' spell lists. And we've made a couple of important tweaks here.
Here we go.
First, the bard no longer can dive into any spell list in the game.
Sorry, folks.
And we made this change for one main reason, and that is outside of the bard, the cleric, the druid, and the wizard, spell lists are highly tailored to a kind of niche identity when it comes to a class like ranger, paladin, artificer.
And there it is.
To refer to a class not in the player's handbook.
Again, for folks who are unaware, it is not in the player's handbook. I know most of you guys know this, but I'm hearing rumors going around that people are not aware that the artificer is not going to be in this book.
And so we wanted to make sure the bard was only looting the spell lists that are actually designed to be lootable. That's also why the warlock is not here. The sorcerer is not here. It is really bard, cleric, druid, or wizard. These are the spell lists that we create to not only serve their classes, but also to be eminently lootable. And part of that is...
So, that means no Eldritch Blast for your bard. That means no Fine Steed for your bard. No Divine Smite for your bard. Not that that like matters too much, but the fact that Divine Smite was a spell got people really excited that they might have been able to take it on something like a bard. I get limiting it to like the other full casters, but there are some spells that appear on like the Warlock list or maybe the Sorcerer list you might not see, but they limited it to Cleric, Druid, and Wizard. So I think they wanted to preserve Smite because of the fact that, again, if they were to give you access to the Paladin spell list, you could have Divine Smite now. and I don't think they wanted Eldritch Blast to be available. But the amount of bards that I've played with in games or ran games for that take Eldritch Blast or Find Steed is pretty high. So interesting that that'll no longer be an option.
That the Cleric, Druid, and Wizard spell lists in particular are the emblematic spell lists for the three main sources of magic. The Wizard spell list is the emblem.
Oh, yes, that's true. Also, no Hunter's Mark. And honestly, I get it. I understand. It was very, as somebody who's played, as we know, many Paladins, it was really annoying when the Bard could get Find Steed like faster than me, you know, or like not even Find Steed, but like some of the more like Find Greater Steed, right? When that was a thing, the Bard could get Find Greater Steed significantly faster than I could as the Paladin. You could have access to spells like that were really cool, unique spells to your spell list, and the Bard would have access to them like 10 levels earlier than you. Like, you know, Bards are getting 5th level spells at level 9. You have to be the 17 as a Paladin to get a 5th level spell or something like that. So, like, if you really wanted Destructive Wave or whatever it was, which was a pretty limited use spell, you couldn't get it, but the Bard could have it, you know, almost 10 levels earlier than you, 7 levels earlier than you, or whatever. So I get that. So they're like keeping some exclusivity there, so that those classes, even though they have lesser spell casting overall, still feel like they have that identity, and it's not just being sniped by the Bard. So I get that.
Emblematic spell list for arcane magic, the Druid list for primal magic, and the Cleric list for divine magic. People will see a similar change in the Magic Initiate feat, which also now does not allow you to dip into any spell list in the game. Instead, it is specifically these iconic spell lists that you can dip into. Now, even though that is a limitation that did not exist before, it is now paired with a greater amount of liberty, because once now the Bard reaches level 10, you may choose any of your prepared spells from these lists. So essentially, once you hit 10, you become, similar to the name of one of your early class features, a true jack of all trades. And so there is that little bit of constriction paired with a massive expansion in terms of versatility for the class. And it used to be that Magical Secrets gave you this versatility, but only at certain later levels. Now you can benefit from it at every level once you've received Magical Secrets.
Perfect. Did you guys hear that, though? That's pretty huge change in the form of Magical Secrets. It's every level, as opposed to just like a couple of spells. So let's go back and hear that one more time.
There is that little bit of any of your prepared spells from these lists. A limitation that did not exist before, it is now paired with a greater amount of liberty, because once now the Bard reaches level 10, you may choose any of your prepared spells from these lists. So essentially, once you hit 10, you become, similar to the name of one of your early class features, a true jack of all trades. And so there is that little bit of constriction paired with a massive expansion in terms of versatility for the class. And it used to be that Magical Secrets gave you this versatility, but only at certain later levels. Now you can benefit from it at every level once you've received Magical Secrets.
Perfect.
Next.
So yeah, basically, if my understanding is correct, at level 10, you essentially now get to pull, when you go to pick new spells going forward, from the Bard, Cleric, Druid, Wizard spell list every time you get to pick new spells or prepare new spells. Whether that's, you know, you get a new spell learned or whatever whenever you level up. Now you have access to those 4 lists every time. It's not just like you get 2 spells at this point. It's those 4 lists are now your expanded Bard list forevermore. So that's massive improvements, as opposed to being like, pick 2 specific spells. Granted, it was 2 specific spells from any list, allowing you to choose from things like the Bard, the Warlock, or I'm sorry, the Paladin, the Warlock, and the Ranger. They've taken that away to allow those classes to have their more iconic spells be exclusive to them, but have quadrupled your spell list to some degree. So that's a pretty massive improvement, I think, overall, and I'm fine with the changes.
Up, we have the revised version of Superior Inspiration.
Right.
Superior Inspiration used to be at 20th level. It's now moved down to 18th level. And it used to require you to have zeroed out your Bardic Inspiration uses to get any back. That's no longer the case. Now, if you have fewer than 2, you get Bardic Inspiration back when you roll initiative until you have 2. So what that means is if you have 0 and you roll initiative, you will now have 2. If you have 1, you will now have 2.
Yeah.
This is a nice improvement to move this up to 18th level and give you more Bardic Inspiration so that you'll have them in any combat. Granted, we're at 18th level, but still, it's nice to have.
So that gives you some more flexibility. It also makes this feature useful in more cases, so you will not feel the pressure to completely zero out your Bardic Inspiration uses to be able to benefit from this. And then we have a brand new feature at level 20 for bards called the Word.
Get ready for this. Oh my God. This one, folks, I don't think you're prepared for this. I really don't. Get ready.
Words of Creation. What this means is now all bards will always have prepared when they reach 20th level Power Word Heal and Power Word Kill. A big part of the bard story is that they draw their magic from the words of creation that were uttered before time began to bring the multiverse into being, and that their magic harnesses these words in various ways, and that these words are often represented by spells like Power Word Heal or Power Word Kill. So we thought, let's make it so bards always have, when they reach their ultimate level, always have these spells prepared. And in addition, when a bard casts either of these spells at 20th level, they can target not just the one target the spell normally targets, they can target a second target as well. So that means the
freebie twin spell Power Word Kill or Power Word Heal, pretty bananas.
20th level bard can Power Word Kill 2 creatures at once, but also Power Word Heal 2 friends at once.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Starting off with subclasses, it's a big deal. We've got a new bard subclass, the College of Dance.
Yes, and the College of Dance, this is a subclass we've wanted to introduce for a long.
I mean, you're essentially casting, this is like a way to basically cast 2 9th level spells. I mean, obviously you're limited in the choice, right? But you also still can choose whatever 9th level spells you want to learn. And remember, you also now have access to, at this point, picking 9th level spells from the Bard, Cleric, Druid, or Wizard list. So you'll still have those in your back pocket if you want to cast one of those, but you also could essentially get the casting of 2 9th level spells from one feature. It just has to be heal or harm, essentially. It would be really cool if they gave the option to split it too, right? Instead of casting Power Word Kill and picking 2 targets, and then also Power Word Heal and picking 2 targets, if you could do both, like a healing hurting, like I can cast Power Word Kill on you and heal on somebody or on somebody else. But that's fine. I really like the concept of essentially getting double kill, essentially. It's pretty wild.
Long time. Just because it's fun to have the dancing bard, but also this leans into an element that the bard's story text touches on in the new player's handbook, and that is the bard's magic, and even the magic that taps into the words of creation. Those words.
Sorry, it's not I need to rephrase that. It's not a free 9th level cast, but the fact that you're allowed to double the targets of this is essentially a free 9th level cast, is what I was getting at. Maybe I misspoke. Maybe it wasn't clear. Normally, you could only ever cast Power Word Kill or Power Word Heal once per long rest because you pick one target, and that's how it works. Power Word Kill, but having it doubled to 2 targets is essentially like you casting the spells twice, essentially being a freebie casting of a 9th level spell, is what I was getting at. That's my mistake.
Words are not necessarily verbal. That communication could be by sign, it can be by dance. There are many ways that communication is accomplished in our world, and so we wanted that to be reflected in the bard as well. And so the College of Dance is all about not only this bard dancing, but also maybe even sometimes succeeding at getting their friends to dance with them. And that's particularly true in one of their later features. But starting right away in this new subclass, we have a feature called Dazzling Footwork. And this feature is really a package of multiple features that makes your performances better if they involve dancing. It gives you an unarmored armor class because we want a dancing bard to be able to, if they want to be dressed like a dancer, but still have a decent AC. We've also made it so that this bard, whenever they use a bonus action to confer bardic inspiration, can also make an unarmed strike. And remember, unarmed strikes aren't necessarily punches. They could be kicks or whatever else a dancer would be doing as they are leaping across the battlefield.
There are options within having an unarmed strike now that are more than just doing damage. You can push people around. You can
Absolutely. The new unarmed strike is a package that includes 3 options: deal damage.
Here you go for everybody who's asking.
Grapple, or shove. This actually then combos with some of their later abilities, which I'll get into soon. Also, their unarmed strike deals more damage than a typical unarmed strike, because the typical unarmed strike, unless you're a monk or some other character who has an enhanced unarmed strike, typically on a hit just deals 1 damage plus your strength modifier. Not true for the College of Dance Bard, who, if you decide to deal damage with your unarmed strike, you deal bludgeoning damage equal to a roll of your bardic inspiration die, plus your dexterity modifier. And this roll of your bardic inspiration die does not expend your bardic inspiration. So
again, if you missed that, you are still getting, they talked about the unarmored defense, right? You're getting that benefit, kind of similar to what we saw in the Unearthed Arcana, similar to what a monk would get. You are getting agile strikes, as they mentioned, which is when you expend bardic inspiration, you can make a bonus action unarmed strike, which you could use to just punch. But as they've mentioned, the tweaks to unarmed strike is now that also includes shove or grapple. So that's an option. And this extra damage, your punch now is equal to your bardic inspiration die. So that more or less, there's fucking fly in here. That more or less scales on par with the monk's punches, right? You're starting at a D6 at level 1, what does it go up to? A D8 at 5, a D10 at 11, and then eventually a D12. So basically, you are on par punch-wise with the monk. Is a monk dance bard multi-class viable? Depends on what you mean by viable. You're definitely going to have a lot of redundancies there, especially because you know, like, we'll see what if they put out an article to really spell this out, because I think there's a little bit more to agile strikes. I don't believe they actually really fully explained it. Let's see.
More damage than a typical bardic inspiration. Can also make an unarmed that makes your performances better if they involve dancing. It gives you an unarmored armor class because we want a dancing bard to be able to, if they want to be dressed like a dancer, but still have a decent AC. We've also made it so that this bard, whenever they use a bonus action to confer bardic inspiration, can also make an unarmed strike. And remember, unarmed strikes aren't necessarily punches. They could be kicks or whatever else a dancer would be doing as they are leaping across the battlefield.
There are options within having an unarmed strike now that are more than just doing damage. You can push people around. You can
Absolutely. The new unarmed strike is a package that.
So I guess what they're kind of getting at there is normally you give somebody a bardic inspiration as a bonus action is how that works. So now that also lets you make a strike is what it sounds like as well, an unarmed strike. So sounds like you would still be able to use your action to punch somebody or cast a spell, again, or use it for grapple or what have you.
Includes 3 options: deal damage, grapple, or shove. This actually then combos with some of their later abilities, which I'll get into soon. Also, their unarmed strike deals more damage than a typical unarmed strike, because the typical unarmed strike, unless you're a monk or some other character who has an enhanced unarmed strike, typically on a hit just deals 1 damage plus your strength modifier. Not true for the College of Dance Bard, who, if you decide to deal damage with your unarmed strike, you deal bludgeoning damage equal to a roll of your Bardic Inspiration die, plus your dexterity modifier. And this roll of your Bardic Inspiration die does not expend your Bardic Inspiration. So now this bard gets to use their Bardic Inspiration die also as a damage die for the damage that they're dealing with their very vigorous dancing.
Amazing.
Then at level 6, this is when you become very capable at trying to get your friends in on the dance, and maybe you can have your whole party do a exciting flash mob inside battle. This ability is the one where whenever an enemy ends its turn within 5 feet of you, you can take a reaction, expend a use of your Bardic Inspiration to move up to half your speed, and then an ally of yours can also try to do the same thing. None of this movement provokes opportunity attacks. And remember, the earlier level feature is whenever you expend Bardic Inspiration, whether as a part of a bonus action, or reaction, you can also make an unarmed strike. So that means someone...
There's a clarification there that I'm not sure if you heard. Whenever you spend your Bardic Inspiration die as an action, bonus action, or reaction, you can make an unarmed strike. Consider that. That's pretty cool. Freaking fly. Damn it. So, because this feature allows you, when an enemy ends its turn within 5 feet of you, to take a reaction and move, you can make an unarmed strike as part of that reaction of you expending your Bardic Inspiration. So that's pretty cool. Let's keep going.
Comes up close to you, you use this ability, you're not only getting to move without provoking opportunity attacks, but you also get a free unarmed strike as part of the bargain. This is very energetic dancing.
Yes.
Also, and then this is where we really, at the same level, start unlocking the ability to really help your friends get in on the action, is the new tandem footwork feature. Whenever you roll initiative, you can expend 1 use of your Bardic Inspiration and roll it. And then you and your allies get to add that as a bonus to your initiative. So
that's huge because it's a party-wide initiative buff. So that starts at level 6, so you're already rolling a d8. So at level 6, when you roll initiative, expend a Bardic Inspiration die to roll it, and then get to add that to the whole party's initiative roll. I think it might have a distance limit on it, but still. That's a party-wide buff that gets stronger as you level up, because eventually it's going to turn into a D12 that you can just give everybody on their initiatives. It's really good. I like that one a lot.
This allows your group to leap into action potentially far sooner than they normally would in a battle. Finally, the subclass with their level 14 feature, they
so good.
Get the evasion ability that rogues have as well as monks.
You hear that? Bard with evasion at level 14.
But they can share it. The College of Dance Bard, because dancing is often about dancing with someone else. If you can imagine the sort of situation we often had in mind with this is the enemy spellcaster casts Fireball, and you and your buddy are within the blast. As long as you're near each other, you're not only going to benefit from your evasion ability, but you can confer it to the friend next to you as well.
That's amazing.
So yeah, 14th level, you're getting team-wide evasion if your allies are within close proximity to you. Pretty nuts.
This subclass has high mobility, speed, and also some really great interaction with their party mates.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next subclass is also new to the player's handbook, but not new to the game. So the College of Glamour first appeared.
This fucking art, dude. Sorry for the language, but I love this. Gem and holograms over here.
Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and not only has migrated into the player's handbook, but also has actually quite a few updates to it. The new Beguiling Magic feature that you get at level 3, this actually completely replaces the Enthralling Performance feature that the subclass used to have. This now makes it so that you always have the Charm Person and Mirror Image spells prepared, and from now on, whenever you cast an enchantment or an illusion spell, you can choose somebody and try to charm them or frighten them. You can do this a limited number of times per day. We did this because we really wanted to enhance our original vision for this subclass, and that is of being the preeminent beguiling bard subclass. That, this is the pop star bard who has so much presence and also fey magic that people are just bedazzled by this bard. And so that's why we've introduced this new play option with beguiling magic. We also, in the Mantle of Inspiration, have increased the amount of temporary hit points that this feature provides. And then in the Mantle of Majesty, we have made it so that you always now have the command spell prepared, which this feature relies on. And we've also now given you the ability to replace restore your use of this feature by expending a level 3 or higher spell slot.
So if you missed that, they automatically get the Glamour Bards will have, at least at level 6, Command, Charm Person, and Mirror Image always prepared, which is a nice little bonus to have that as well.
This is something that we've done in a number of the features in the book that we didn't do 10 years ago in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and that is giving our spellcasting classes in their subclasses sometimes this ability to burn spell slots to get their feature back. And this was a sort of design shtick that we began experimenting with a number of years ago in products like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And we've seen people have really enjoyed having that option, and so that's why we've now included it here.
Perfect.
Then finally, in the subclasses Unbreakable Majesty, I mean, just even the name of it. When a creature hits you with an attack for the first time on the turn, the creature must succeed on a charisma save or the attack misses. This replaces the feature's original function, which was potentially causing the attacker to have to target somebody else.
Right.
This turns it into more sort of a direct interaction between the attacker and the bard, where the bard can just be like, I'm too glorious for you to harm me. Do you really want to attack the bard pop star?
Nice.
So we have the College of Lore and the College of Valor, the two returning subclasses from 2014, because let us not forget that in 2014 the Bard had only 2 subclasses.
Yeah.
So the Bard's number of subclasses has doubled in the new Player's Handbook, and College of Lore and College of Valor are returning subclasses. College of Lore is in many ways, the classic Bard.
Yeah.
This is the Bard that is all about gathering stories and magic and historical information and using that to their and their friends' advantage, whereas the College of Valor is very much the warrior bard, the bard singing on the battlefield, and some cultures have called this type of bard like a skald.
Yeah.
This is the bard who is inspiring the troops in many fantasy stories. But in the College of Lore, we have revised a number of things. So for example, the Magical Discoveries ability now functions a bit more like Magical Secrets does. It's specific to the Cleric, Druid, and Wizard spell list, but you can then replace those when you level up as a bard. So you have more flexibility. You're not only getting to dip into these other classes' spell lists, but then you can swap them out as you level up if you decide that Wizard spell you selected was not turning out to be as fun as you thought it would be, and you're looking over at that Cleric or Druid spell you'd rather have. You have increased flexibility here as a College of Lore bard. So also, cutting words, which is this bard's iconic feature, has been enhanced in a subtle but important way, and that is it now works even on creatures who are immune to the charmed condition.
Oh, nasty.
That's a nice little improvement there to give cutting words that benefit.
Okay.
And so used to be, particularly at higher levels, you would have that wah-wah feeling as a lore bard where you're trying to use your cutting words and it happened to be a creature that was immune to being charmed. You now don't have to worry about that.
Fantastic.
Because it really turns out, no matter what kind of creature you are.
I feel like nobody remembers that limitation. I feel like most people just didn't realize that, so it's fine.
Who really wants to be cut down by that sassy bard?
That's fair.
Those words cut no matter what you are.
Yeah.
We also, in the Peerless Skill feature, have made an important improvement here. If you use your Bardic Inspiration using this feature to try to turn a failed ability or attack roll into a success, if you do not succeed at turning it into a success, your use of the Bardic Inspiration is not expended.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So this now
This is a huge improvement for Peerless skill. So if you missed that, Peerless skill was the ability that when you make, what is it, like a roll of a d20, basically, you can add your Bardic Inspiration die to juice up your own stuff. But now if that, and they've tweaked, and we kind of saw this in the Unearthed Arcana, right? The way Bardic Inspiration works now is when you fail a thing, you can use your d20, you can use the inspiration. So there was no point, and that was kind of the justification by the adjustments of it, is like, the goal, more often than not, with Bardic Inspiration is to make something where you would have failed now be something that makes you succeed. So they've kind of changed that to be like you use the Bardic Inspiration die to turn a potential failure into a success, which is what they're saying kind of here with Peerless skill. Is the benefit is when you would normally make a roll, you could add your Bardic Inspiration die to it to possibly turn, again, that failure into a success. But if it doesn't turn it into a success, you don't blow the Bardic Inspiration die, which is just huge quality of life improvement for the Bard there. And again, we talked about how you are going to get some more, magical secrets, because they toyed with getting rid of magical secrets for the Lore Bard. And I think they mentioned it there that you do get some earlier access to magical secrets there. I just want to make sure I didn't skip over that. I think I wasn't paying attention.
The magical discoveries ability now functions a bit more like magical secrets.
Yeah, magical discoveries is what it's called.
Does. It's specific to the Cleric, Druid, and Wizard spell list. But you can then replace those when you level up as a Bard. So you have more flexibility. You're not only getting to dip into these other classes' spell lists, but then you can swap them out as you level up if you decide that Wizard spell you selected was not turning out to be as fun as you thought it would be, and you're looking.
There's the taco again. This has got to be Heroes Feast, right? The Heroes Feast taco. My dude here, he is loving on that taco. He's so excited for it.
Over at that Cleric.
There's just sushi in here too. You see this? There's a lot of things in this.
Or Druid spell you'd rather have.
Right, you have skip ahead to where we were.
In the Peerless skill feature, have made an important improvement here. If you use your Bardic Inspiration using this feature to try to turn a failed ability or attack roll into a success, if you do not succeed at turning it into a success, your use of the Bardic Inspiration is not expended.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So this is now a feature that only gets expended if it succeeds at doing its job.
Perfect.
And we did this so that the Lore Bard would feel more bold about using the feature, because features like this, if they get expended even if they do nothing, can be frustrating, and it can be very easy for a player who especially really likes shepherding their character's resources.
Yeah, you start hoarding your resources and never using it out of fear.
Exactly, and we all know that if you have an ability that you're always saving, and so you never use it, you basically don't have that ability.
Yeah.
and so we want people to feel emboldened to use their class features.
Perfect. All right, that brings us to a very popular subclass for the Bard, the College of Valor.
So the College of Valor has a major update hiding inside its extra attack feature.
Okay.
And this is the main change here, because College of Valor, super solid in 2014.
Yeah.
And what people are going to see here is largely what they saw in 2014. But
you guys ready for this one?
A big exception to that statement.
Yeah. Very popular is a stretch, but yeah, lore was the winner for sure.
And that is, in the extra attack feature, we have made it so that you can cast one of your cantrips in place of one of your extra attacks. So
yes, so just like a Blade Singer.
It used to be that you got extra attack, which is awesome. But what we wanted is to give you the flexibility to, through the use of that extra attack, speak to either side of your identity as a Valor Bard, whether it's your weapon use or your spellcasting. And so now, similar to what you see in the Eldritch Knight, you can mix it up with your extra attack, and if you want, use a cantrip in place of one of those attacks. And so that will give you a lot more tactical versatility than you had before.
And again, speaks again to that wish fulfillment. If you were playing this type of Bard, you want to be mixing magic and sword and sorcery.
And along that same theme, the other change worth noting inside the College of Valor is that they can now use simple and martial weapons as spellcasting focuses for their Bard spells.
Yeah.
So what that now means is they don't have to worry about what's in their hands or not, because they can channel their magic through their weapons themselves. Which is why in the art for this subclass, we show this bard with a shield and a blade, and given how this subclass works, this bard can cast their spell through the blade that they're wielding.
When you pre-order the digital physical bundle, you also get...
There you go, folks. I'm going to go ahead and see if there's a D&D Beyond article for this. I don't know if there will be. There is not, so we don't have an article to review. It was really great having those articles right as the videos were coming out, so you could go ahead and refer back to them. So, yeah. General, I would say overall improvements on the Bard in general. There's really no detriment there. I think everything's basically been an improvement. Again, people are going to be salty about the reduced spell list options, but there's overall improvements on how that works. You're not limited to just 2 spells. You're limited. You basically have now unlocked 4 spell lists or 3 extra spell lists to pick from. And that's pretty crazy, right? And again, it's whenever you kind of get your extra spells. So it's nothing from stopping you from going back and grabbing Spirit Guardians, you know, having that on your character. It's sort of feeling like that stuff made Wizards good are being watered down. Yeah, I don't fully disagree with your statement there that, like, I mean, I know a lot of people had comments about when I had mentioned this about Wizards in the past, but when you see all of the cool things that all of the other classes are getting, and Wizards are just like, you got the big spell list. Yeah, other people get some cool stuff too, but still. So, you know what? I did say if they released any articles, we would review them. So they did release a Cleric article yesterday. So we can actually go ahead and take a look at the Cleric article from yesterday and just see if there was anything that we missed that's worth addressing here. So new features, Divine Order at level 1, right, grants proficiency in martial weapons and heavy armor, or Thaumaturge, which is an extra cantrip, and you add your wisdom modifier to intelligence, arcana, or religion checks. They added Divine Spark for Channel Divinity, which we talked about, lets you deal damage or heal somebody. Adjustments to the subclasses. We talked about Seer Undead, instead deals radiant damage. They didn't show us the actual amount. Maybe they will below. Blessed Strikes gives you the option of a D8 radiant or necrotic damage with an attack roll or wisdom modifier to your cantrips. Divine Intervention is now a 5th level or lower spell, restores after a long rest. Improved Blessed Strikes as this goes up to 2d8, and then when you deal damage with a Cleric cantrip, you grant yourself or somebody else temporary HP. And then again, Greater Divine Intervention, as mentioned, is basically a wish. That can't be used again for 2d4 days. All right, let's see. We'll keep going, see if they... Okay, Divine Spark is... as a magic action, you can focus Divine Energy towards a creature within 30 feet. You can choose Heal or Harm, roll a d8 and add your Wisdom modifier. If you choose Healing, they get that many hit points. It scales up to 2d8 at 7, 3d8 at 13, 4d8 at 18, or you could force a creature to make a con save, taking radiant or necrotic damage. If they fail, half on a success. So that's actually a pretty nice little, again, we can see some more about Divine Spark, how it is like the scaling of it. But you are also adding your Wisdom modifier to the damage or the healing, and the fact that this is, again, a thing that you're able to recharge, as this is Channel Divinity, and it gives you something for everybody to use. There's not too much to talk about here. We kind of, the subclasses were pretty well described. Again, they do mention it here, right? Cast Shield of Faith or Spiritual Weapon without a spell slot, without requiring concentration. But it is for up to a minute, so I guess that is a nerf on Shield of Faith, because I think Shield of Faith is typically 10 minutes. Seer Undead, do they tell us how that works? A number of d8s equal to your Wisdom modifier, so it is kind of like the Unearthed Arcana. So when you do turn undead, you can choose to just deal extra damage. We talked about Blessed Strikes. We talked about Divine Intervention. All right, so the potent spellcasting improvement at 14. When you deal damage with a cleric cantrip, you grant temporary hit points equal to twice your wisdom modifier to a creature within 60 feet. So you can either give yourself or somebody else twice your wisdom modifier in temporary hit points whenever you deal damage with a cantrip. So that's pretty solid. And then again, wish at level 20. So there you go, folks. That is our final class reveal for the Player's Handbook of 2024. So tomorrow we will be getting a I think it's the dragon art reveal, so that'll be a fun little birthday stream for me to do tomorrow. Because again, if people want to know, tomorrow's my birthday. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I'm like I said, I'm very positive about this book in general, right? A lot of the stuff, there's some stuff that's going to make people upset. I'm positive for most of this book. We know one area that I'm not super positive on, but I think a lot of the adjustments that have been made to spells, to feats, to classes and subclasses, and just the way the book is organized and structured and the art, it's generally a very positive for me. So, I like it a lot. It does, in every fiber of my being, this is 5.5, right? This is not still 5th edition. They've even flat out said that in some of the videos that, like, this is basically a whole new class, or this is basically a whole new subclass. And how can you still call it the same if you're just totally revamping something and, like, overwriting what was there in the past? And you know what? When I was talking to a friend, a game designer friend, and we were kind of going over this, and if you lived through the 3 to 3.5 transition, or you had books from both, this feels very much like that to me, right? It feels like it feels like how 3.0 and 3.5 was. They are almost identical, but there were so many improvements made in 3.5 to everything that unless there was something that you really wanted from 3.0 that they didn't update or get around to reprinting in 3.5, you just used 3.5. And you would only go back to 3.0 if there was like a book that they never updated, right? They made however many monster manuals for 3.0, but then they ended up making 5 monster manuals, I think, for 3.5. And then, like, you had all of the soft cover black and white books for 3.0 for like Song and Silence and Tome and Blood, and like the prestige class books for like Masters of the Wild, which was like your Barbarian Druid Ranger book, and Song and Silence was your Bard and Rogue book. You had all of these books that were all of these prestige classes and all this information, and that was 3.0. But then, like, almost every single prestige class in those books got reprinted in some form in all of the complete series. So, like, if you waited long enough, whatever you wanted got reprinted, and then you could just not deal with 3.0. I think the Book of Exalted Deeds maybe was a 3.0 book technically and didn't get like updated to 3.5. There's like 1 or 2 supplement books that were like pretty substantial books that didn't get like a reprint or all of their content reprinted somewhere else. And that very much feels that what we're at right now. Like, that's how I feel in this. That this is very much a 5.5 to a 5.0 situation. And that's not a bad thing. I want to make that very clear. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I know that the reason they want to keep everything called 5th edition is because of the iconic recognition of 5th edition. I get that. Totally makes sense from a marketing and a business standpoint. Keep it what it was. But realistically, it is 5.5, right? It is like, you can see, and it'd be very easy, which we're going to do, to convert 3.0 stuff to 3.5 to make 5.0 to 5.5. Like, you could do that. some things changes. They added new terminology for things. They added some new abilities. The character sheet's slightly different looking. But ultimately, they could play at the same table. And in fact, a lot of people did, right? Or what happened for me a lot in my time playing 3.0 and 3.5 is like because the internet didn't really, I mean, it existed, but we're talking the early 2000s internet, but you just didn't have access to things. So like if you didn't have the book or the supplement or whatever it was, you just didn't have that content because we were living in a pen and paper world. So like if we had the 3.0 core books and like maybe one or two complete books, but we had a whole bunch of 3.0 stuff, and like I'm playing a 3.5 druid because we're using the 3.5 rules, but you have a bunch of 3.0 content and I'm like, "Ooh, this is a really cool prestige class for the druid. I'm going to take that prestige class." And that's because that didn't exist or we just didn't have the book. So you would just use that. And that's just because of the nature of not having the content, which is very much what I feel like a lot of you can do if you are dead set against not rebuying used content or you don't want to buy stuff going forward. You can kind of just make it work. Once the SRD 5.2 comes out and we have the new core rules, the base free rules for the 2024 revision, you could just use that and then use your old content and just kind of make it work. And that's what you're probably going to have to do. Again, people like myself and other people will go ahead and probably make videos or content about how to update that stuff or what we think the best changes would be. And then you can just use that. And then you don't have to worry about doing that mental load yourself. But that it feels so similar. Like it like is very much deja vu on that change. And and like I said, nothing wrong with that. And like I get why they're calling it what they're calling it, but that's it is so reminiscent of it. Like my 3.5 druid character that I've talked about, my very first character, he was a druid, and the prestige class I took was the Tamer of Beasts, which was a 3.0 subclass or prestige class that lets you get other animals. Now they remade that class and called it something different in like Complete Adventurer or something, but we didn't have Complete Adventurer when we were playing our game. So we had the old book. So that's what I used. Had I had the new one, I probably would have used that one. But that's just how it is, you know? So yeah, that's where I'm at. Yeah, Dark Winters, you bring up the 3.30 or 3E to 3.5 Ranger was a big difference. Yeah, and that's like, you'll notice, I mean, think about this, right? We talk the Monk, the 5.0 to, if we want to call this now, the 5.5 Monk is a big change. It is a drastic shift in the way things work. Some things got relatively minimal changes because they didn't really need to be updated. Like the Clerics got kind of just some tweaks from 5.0 to 5.5, but the Monk got a major overhaul. And so they're like, that's what you can do when you kind of iterate on an edition. And I mean, it's like the same thing with Pathfinder, right? Basically the second edition, Pathfinder second edition, and then Pathfinder second edition remaster. Some stuff is very similar, but there are some significant changes to some of the classes that needed some serious adjustments. So yeah, it could be Pathfinder 2.5e realistically with all of the changes, but I don't know. Yeah, they're calling it the revision. Yeah, exactly my point, right? So it's just like you're giving it another name, but you're not. Like we're calling it the 2024 Player's Handbook because that's what we're being told to call it that, but it's basically the 5.5 you know what? That's something I want to do. I want to get like a leather bound cover, like the old school 3.5 kind of covers. I want to get one that says 5.5 and like wrap my new 2024 Player's Handbook in it. I think that'd be kind of fun. Just as like a little stupid thing for me to do. And I could do that myself, or if there's, there's companies out there that do that as well. Yeah, you're right. They added to 3.5, right? They added some errata to the ones they didn't update, right? Like they basically revamped the entirety of the way Wild Shape worked. I think was like a total errata, and that was a freebie thing. So anyway, I've kind of I think I'm done beating that dead horse. But yeah, let's see. Um, I haven't even looked at the monk. Did wizards change? Yeah, there's been a lot of changes around with extra art. Um, while I'm capable of porting over the death domain for my Cleric of Merkel, I'm personally interested to see how they might actually update design of features of it instead of just taking it as is. Yeah, and that's kind of where we're gonna be at. Like you might have to wait for the death domain to arrive, or it might not ever. Who knows? But like I will take the time at some point to get to I'm committing to up making videos because it's just also kind of wrote my content schedule for me of just like updating all of this old 5th edition content that didn't get ported to 5 or to 5.5, if you will. I'm going to make videos kind of doing my best to bring everything in parity with what we have. So, like, that's a thing that I'm going to do. Yeah. Yeah, the seal, I think you have it pretty well said here. While there are areas that changed a lot and will lead to friction, most of the changes will be pretty smooth. I agree. Yes, you're right. Devilham, Death Domain was always in the DMG. Is there a chance we'll get an updated Death Domain in this DMG? Maybe. This is also something that like we're in a very interesting time frame where it kind of reminds me of what it was like. Is there a class or subclass playlist on the Nerd Immersion channel? I can actually make a playlist of all the live streams we've done thus far just for this to show you, but I will make a playlist for all of the new content that I will be putting out. Like you'll have that. And I agree, Lathon, TOV Ranger looks great. I agree. TOV Ranger's fantastic. And once I get through all of my coverage of 2024 stuff, I will start doing comparison videos to Tales of the Valiant. We're so close to the release, it doesn't make sense to do those videos now. So I will just give you the new version of like the Barbarian versus the Tales of the Valiant Barbarian, that kind of a thing. So yeah, I will definitely have content, lots of content coming out here in the next bit. Are there guidelines in the new books for updating things from 2014? I have to look. I thought I remember them saying there were some spots where there was. I feel like you're probably going to get more of that, more than likely, in the SRD 5.2. But I'm going to take a look and see if there is specific language, because I'm not really sure off the top of my head. I don't want to do 5e 2024 and TOV as like a 3-way. I basically like I thought about that. That videos would be so long. To do that. Like, there's part of me that's like you could do a 5e to 2024, but then there was the Unearthed Arcana, and some of the stuff is drastically different than the Unearthed Arcana. So I think I'm just going to talk about the 2024 stuff in a video. And when I do that, we'll kind of just touch on like the adjustments there. That's kind of what are the tweaks we've seen since 2024 or 2014. And then a separate video that's like the newest thing, which is 2024 versus Tales of the Valiant. Because I'll be honest, there was a lot of stuff that Celeste got a lot of shit for making Tales of the Valiant, because people really coming for her pretty hard about how things were so much different than the Unearthed Arcana or similar to the Unearthed Arcana. And then, lo and behold, the final version of the things are drastically different than the Unearthed Arcana. So there's a lot of, heart and soul poured into Tales of the Valiant. And I think I'm a fan. But yeah, we're also talking about 2024. And there's actually a lot of folks that are leaning Tales of the Valiant. I mean, they've been selling like gangbusters at Cobalt Press. I think they're sold out or they were for a bit, because all that content is just rolling out. And it's also something that, if you know anything about Cobalt Press, they're a lot more nimble than WotC. So they'll be able to produce more content quickly, and will in fact produce more content quickly. So if you're looking for like more subclasses or like more stuff in the future, you'll likely get a Cobalt Press book significantly faster than you would get a new WotC book. So to that extent, when it comes to like options and content, that'll likely definitely be true. You'll get whatever their follow-up book is going to be that'll have more subclasses or magic items or whatever it is. You'll get that quicker than WotC will churn out whatever new book they're going to do. So, yep. What least favorite and favorite change so far for 5.5? All right, least favorite. I don't think I mean, the chat could just blow it up if you ask what my least favorite change is. Actually, it's interesting because I've never really liked the 5e Ranger. So I've never really been a huge fan of it. So the changes, I dislike the changes that they made to the Ranger, but I never really liked it that much in the first place. So like, I don't know. That's, that is kind of how that works. But so I'd say if we just put the Ranger in a separate category, I would say my least favorite change is probably, it's got to be Smite, right? It has to be the changes to Divine Smite. The making it a spell, I'm fine with that, but it using a bonus action to work just feels wrong. I get you want to limit it to once a turn, then just make it limited to once a turn. That's how I'm probably going to handle it at my tables, is you can use Divine Smite once a turn, because they don't want you smiting like crazy. And the fact like you can't really do it as a reaction. You can't reaction hit somebody in Smite because you got to use a bonus action to activate it. Once per turn. Once on your turn, right? If you want to go that way, so you're not expending so that like you can't do it as a reaction as well. So once on your turn fixes that pretty clearly. So that's probably, and like the other one would be concentration spiritual weapon, right? If we had to pick a different one. But my most favorite change, that's tricky. I gotta give it to either the fighter or the monk, just overall overhauls. I think the monk got the biggest overhaul, the most things changed about it. But the fighter got so much extra tactical, or maybe weapon mastery as a general feature might be my favorite thing. We've known about weapon mastery for a while because it's been in all the Unearthed Arcanas and stuff. But technically that is something new, so... let's see. Yeah, best change is probably weapon mastery. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Let's see. How many total attacks per round does the Ranger have in 2024? It's basically the same as it was in 2014. The Monk's got 5 attacks now, with Flurry of Blows at level 10. So the Monk, technically, without doing action surge shenanigans, currently has the most attacks. More attacks than any other class in the game. Obviously, the fighter will have more as they level up. At 20, the fighter will have 4, and then potentially 8 with action surge. But if a monk dips 2 levels in fighter, they could have 7. So they could get close. With 2 and then 2 and 3 bonus actions for Flurry of Blows. I absolutely will do Tales of the Valiant stuff, 100%. I have a lot of stuff going on right now. A lot of this has obviously been keeping me pretty busy. Yeah, I like Brutal Strike and I like Cunning Strike, the options for the Rogue and the Barbarian to like expend different things to do like lessen the damage or give up advantage to like just deal extra things to do more versatility. The overall just improvement to tactical combat options is probably one of the best things, and that encompasses a lot of aspects. Is just the opportunity for multiple classes to have more tactical options and like battlefield control and maneuverability. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely on board. Like, even as a diehard paladin player, I'm on board with the concept of smite needing to be toned down a little bit. Listen, as a paladin player, have I enjoyed totally destroying a combat and just like downing an enemy? You roll that natural 20 and like goodbye to whatever you're fighting, right? I think my record is 125 damage in a single strike. I think was the most I was able to do with a paladin smiting. Most of this stuff is player facing, right? It is the player's handbook. The Dungeon Master's Guide will be out later in this year, so we'll be covering that when it comes out as well. So I don't like that post level 10 Bard has no true list. It just becomes all of them. I kind of like. I mean, they still have the Bard list. They just get access to more. You also don't have to if you don't want to. You could just stick with just the Bard list. Yeah, Dark Winters, they didn't they basically I think I mentioned this at one point. Any of the classes that kind of had abilities that allowed you to have a thing that lets you overcome the resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing by making the attacks magical, that's basically gone now, in favor of giving you the opportunity to do different forms of damage, right? So like monks can do force damage instead of bludgeoning damage now. And I think like moon druids can do radiant damage instead of whatever the regular damage is, but they did not give anybody the option to do just like your attacks are magical for the purposes of overcoming damage resistance. Instead, they gave you can choose to do the regular damage or some other damage type. So that's kind of how that works. So let's see. Yeah. So tomorrow is the dragon reveal. So we'll do our little birthday stream tomorrow. Still looking for the new car. Haven't figured out what's going on with that. So that's fun. And I will post links to an Amazon wish list and a Throne wish list if people are interested. Do not feel obligated. We talked about that yesterday, but I'll just throw it out there because some people want to do that. I did see some people were picking up merch recently, which is cool. So that's pretty neat. But yeah, I'll actually be live tonight on Captain Robert's Twitch channel playing Theodore the Orange, my orange wizard. We're playing Vecna Eve of Ruin. We basically just started chapter 2 of Vecna Eve of Ruin. So that's a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm excited to do that. I also like live streaming a lot, you know? I mean, I hadn't done it for a while here on YouTube because I was usually doing it for like news coverage stuff. And now we actually have news to talk about. So it's fun, you know? I like hanging out with all of you and chatting and being here to be able to react to live stuff. So, and I've kind of decided that that's kind of my mentality is like gameplay stuff we're going to do on Twitch and like other content we're going to do here on YouTube. And I think that that very much keeps the audiences where they are, right? All of the gameplay stuff gets uploaded to Nerd Immersion Plays, the second channel, and then that way it doesn't bog down your guys' feed with me, my campaigns and stuff. So anyway, I think I'm gonna bring this stream to a close. I'm hungry. Gotta go get some lunch here. So I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday. Happy 7-Eleven day. If you're born today, enjoy your free Slurpees. And yeah, I'm gonna go get some lunch, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for the birthday stream, or I'll see you tonight in Captain Robert's channel. My character just fainted as we just encountered the Wizards 3, and he's a wizard. So he fainted to be in the presence of great and powerful wizards. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. And I might have some other videos coming out too, so keep an eye out for that. See you all